Here you are in the heart of El Salvador at 13 years old. You're poor, you barely see your mother, and at school, you're invisible. But every afternoon, when the guys in blue and white walk through your neighborhood, everyone steps aside. And that's where it all begins. You don't approach them asking to join because you know that would be disrespectful. You simply start being nearby. You listen, observe, and make yourself useful without being asked. That's the lowest level, the paro. Your job seems insignificant, but it isn't. You spend hours on the corner watching. If you see a patrol car, you send an emoji and nothing more. If you spot a Barrio 18 member in the area, you run to warn someone. Sometimes you hold packages without asking what's inside. For now, you earn nothing and have no voice. The people above wouldn't think twice about shooting you if you cause problems. And the test isn't physical yet, it's mental. When a teacher asks what those guys are doing on the corner, you know nothing. When a cop offers you money for information, you walk away without looking back. They're watching you at all times, waiting for the smallest slip to discard you. 6 months have passed and you're still there. You haven't talked, you haven't failed, but you won't feel pride. From here on, you're going to feel pain. One night, one of the veterans calls you over and asks you a direct question. Do you want in? You nod, even knowing there's no turning back. They take you to an alley where 13 members form a circle around you. This ritual is called El Brinco, and it's as simple as it is brutal. You have to endure 13 seconds of hits from everyone at once. You can't defend yourself, you can't run, and you can't beg. The first punch rattles your jaw, and you understand this isn't symbolic. Within seconds, you feel kicks to your ribs and the air leaves you. By the 8th second, you can taste blood. And by the 11th, you can barely make out the faces. Then someone shouts, 13, and everything stops. A hand lifts you up and they embrace you. You're officially in. They give you a new name, Flaco, Cholo, or whatever they decide. That nickname replaces your old one because your identity is no longer individual. It's collective. You feel protection, backing, family, but this is just a mask because you just accepted a silent clause that nobody explained to you when you were a paro. The only way out is dead or marked as a traitor. And the next level is no longer about proving loyalty in silence. It's about starting to generate money. And when money enters the picture, violence becomes business in this gang. Your job seems simple. Move product. You don't produce it, you don't set prices, you're just the middle link. Someone leaves a package behind a dumpster. You pick it up without looking inside. You walk 3 blocks, 2 knocks on a door, you hand it over and leave. $200 a week. That's more than your mother earns in several days working 2 jobs. You buy new sneakers and a chain and you start walking differently. People in the neighborhood no longer ignore you. Along with the chain comes another mark, your first tattoos in the gang's honor. But here the first real problem appears. Now you can actually go to prison. If they catch you with the package, you go straight to juvenile detention and the gang doesn't pay for lawyers. They don't come to your rescue. You do your time and keep your mouth shut. That's the rule. Until one day a siren sounds closer than usual. Your heart races. You don't know if they're coming for you or someone else. You start to understand that you control nothing. You are expendable. If you fall, tomorrow there'll be another soldier taking your place. And when you finally think the risk is enough, you get assigned a job. A shopkeeper refuses to pay extortion. You go in with 3 other gang members and baseball bats. You teach him a lesson and leave before the police arrive. The following week, he pays. You tell yourself it's just business. And when you start normalizing the violence, a new recruit comes in shouting that a Barrio 18 member was spotted in your territory. It's no longer about intimidating, now it's about hunting. So you go out armed. And here you understand something uncomfortable. The money gave you status, but it also put you on the radar. Police start recognizing your face. Your name appears in a database as a verified member. You're no longer invisible. And in this organization, when you start to stand out, you start to get in the way. Do you think the next level will be more comfortable? Less street, more control. But what you don't know is that the real danger isn't being at the bottom. It's starting to give orders. 5 years pass. You're 18. You've already done time in county jail. 18 months for assault. Several detectives tried to talk to you. Promises, threats, offers, but you said nothing. You got out and they celebrated you. Now you're a veteran. It sounds prestigious. You no longer break windows or run minor errands. You have soldiers beneath you who hand you money. You take your cut and send the rest upward while you control 3 blocks and decide who sells, who pays, and who stays quiet. For the first time, you feel real power. You have a used car, an apartment, a girlfriend, and you earn $500 a week. It seems like the system is finally working in your favor. But every promotion brings a problem more complex than the last. Now it's your job to enforce discipline. One soldier schemes money. Another talks too much at a party. You can no longer look the other way because if you don't correct people, you look weak. You try resolving it through conversation, but it doesn't work. The corrective beating follows, and when that's not enough, the one who fails disappears. In these gangs, loyalty is proven in blood. That's when you cross an invisible line. You're no longer just carrying out orders. Now you make decisions that change destinies. Meanwhile, external pressure increases. Police no longer see you as the kid on the corner. They consider you an operator. Every raid in your area starts with you. They stop you more, photograph you, log you. You start to understand something unsettling. The higher you climb, the less margin for error you have. Here, another silent enemy appears. Internal ambition. A young soldier starts standing out. He's quick and aggressive. He reminds you of yourself. And you know how this works. The one who shows hunger rises. And for him to rise, someone has to fall. You sleep worse, you distrust even your own people because the real danger no longer comes only from Barrio 18 or the police. It comes from below. And when you think you finally learned to survive at this level, the opportunity arrives to become a palero. More money, more territory, more men, and an even bigger target on your back. You no longer control 3 blocks. You control the entire neighborhood. Between 30 and 40 soldiers answer to your orders. Veterans hand you money from their zones, you take your cut and send the rest upward. Every week, thousands of dollars move, between $5,000 and $10,000 passing through your hands. And for the first time, you have respect, not just on the street, but in internal meetings too. Now you wear expensive clothes, change cars frequently, and when you walk, soldiers step aside to let you pass. Your word carries weight. If you decide someone gets expelled with a ritual beating, it happens. If you mark someone as a target, their sentence is already written. You can choose who to extort, who to rob, who to silence. If someone resists, you or one of your soldiers make sure they never breathe again. It sounds extreme, but that's how things work in these gangs. The first problem is external. The FBI now has a unit dedicated exclusively to dismantling structures like yours. You know they tap phones, pressure girlfriends, follow family members. You start changing where you sleep and keep a gun under your pillow. And on top of that, the young soldier is making noise. He resolves conflicts quickly, delivers money on time. In meetings, he speaks little, but when he does, everyone listens. He reminds you too much of yourself at his age. You notice some soldiers going to him before coming to you. Not out of open disloyalty, but out of habit. Ambition never announces itself. It simply grows in silence. You try controlling him with authority. You correct him publicly once to mark the hierarchy. He bows his head, but in his eyes, you no longer see full obedience. You see calculation. If you confront him directly and have him killed, you send a clear message, but also generate internal doubt. If you seem insecure, you smell like weakness. You decide to act, not like a soldier, but like a leader. One night, after a meeting, you invite him into the van under the guise of checking out a new sales point. You talk to him about expansion, trust, the future. He listens, relaxed, believing he's just earned your full backing. But then you veer a few blocks further than usual. You stop at a territorial boundary he knows perfectly. Barrio 18 controls those blocks. He furrows his brow in confusion. But before he can fully process it, you ask him to step out for a moment to look at something. When he puts one foot out, you drive away. You leave him there. In enemy territory, no backup, no warning. In that world, that's the equivalent of signing a death sentence. You didn't pull the trigger. Technically, you didn't betray one of your own. From that day on, no one looks at you as an option anymore, only as authority. You've consolidated power. You've eliminated the internal threat without directly getting your hands dirty. And for a few weeks, the neighborhood breathes again under your absolute control. The next level is the Ranfla. And it's not just any promotion. Now several paleros report to you, hundreds of soldiers generating money and a structure that functions like a clandestine corporation. Routes, distribution, contacts with suppliers, agreements that are never mentioned over the phone. You no longer walk through the neighborhood to command respect. Now you operate from the shadows, negotiating shipments, setting prices, deciding which clicker gets more product and which one waits. The money stops being counted in thousands and starts moving in figures that require laundering every bill through apparently legitimate businesses. A car wash, a construction company, a nightclub. From the outside, you look like a successful entrepreneur. From the inside, you're pulling the strings. The problem is that the bigger the structure, the more fragile it becomes from within. And the mistake isn't yours, it's made by one of your men. A trusted veteran talks too much in the wrong place carelessly. A wiretapped call, a poorly coordinated movement, a monitored delivery. By the time you realize it, it's too late. The case is built. The feds don't come for soldiers. They come for the head, and this time, they take you. As the judge reads charges under laws designed to bring down entire organizations, you understand you're looking at decades behind bars. The structure on the street trembles. Your rivals celebrate too soon. But not all prisons are equal. You're transferred to a prison where the MS-13 isn't a minority. It is the system. Inside, the modules are controlled by your people. Clear hierarchies, orders flowing up and down as if you'd never left the street. What the world sees as imprisonment, for you, is a relocation. There are TVs, PlayStations, entertainment, women, and most importantly, phones that come in like any other merchandise. Both guards, officials who prefer cooperation over conflict. In the first week, you locate your people. You don't have to look far. They already know who you are. Within days, the internal alliances reorganize and your name starts circulating with respect. Not because of physical strength, but because of your history and the men who still answer to you on the outside. In this prison, you are in charge. You become a shooter. That means you decide who receives protection and who is left exposed, who works in the kitchen, who cleans, who has access to certain resources. If there's a conflict between members, you resolve it. If an outside inmate crosses the wrong line, you decide whether he gets a warning or gets stabbed in the shower. And most importantly, you're still connected to the outside. From your cell, you can continue coordinating territories, settling disputes between clica, and authorizing major moves. Money flows through commissary accounts. Your woman visits once a month and you use her as a messenger. A soldier on the street starts talking to the police. The information reaches you. You don't raise your voice, you just make a call. 3 days later, the problem disappears. And yet, the more power you accumulate behind walls, the more brutal a contradiction becomes clear. You give orders to free men while you can't cross a door without an escort. You become an internal legend. Young guys on the street mention your name without ever having seen you. To them, you're an almost mythical figure, a boss controlling territory from a cell. And when you've already accepted that you'll spend the rest of your days there, something happens that confirms real power operates on another dimension entirely. One of the high command, someone far above your rank, negotiates with the country's corrupt government. It's not a rumor, it's a strategic agreement. Less visible violence in exchange for prison benefits, favorable transfers, reduced pressure. Politics enters the game. Weeks later, you're out. In theory, when you cross that door, the air feels different. You've survived prison and it didn't break you. Antalantile andinete tintatius. On the contrary, it consolidated you. Now you know the structure functions even when its leaders are behind bars. But that experience reveals something unsettling. If you can be negotiated, you can also be sacrificed. And above you, there are still figures who don't show up at neighborhood meetings or on visible judicial lists. To understand this, you need to understand the origins a little. The MS-13 was born in Los Angeles in the 1980s and expanded through deportations to Central America. What started as a neighborhood gang ended up becoming a transnational network. And in that process, figures emerged who are no longer simple operational leaders. They are architects of the system. With enough respect and seniority, you may be called to meetings with some of these men. You still go armed with escorts on each side, but the weapons become symbolic. Now you sit with politicians and government officials whenever decisions affecting the entire criminal structure need to be made. There are weapons that can't be obtained on the street. They require corrupt military contacts and diverted arsenals. And that's not all. There are also silent agreements to move merchandise without inspection and inflated government contracts where money quietly flows back to finance the structure. And most delicately, there are truces, discreet negotiations between high command and governments that need to lower homicide statistics before elections. Pacts where visible violence decreases in exchange for prison benefits, favorable transfers, improvements in prison conditions, or reduced police pressure in certain areas. Nothing is signed publicly, but the numbers drop, prisons relax, and the system breathes. Some argue the network became so extensive that eliminating it all at once would have caused a brutal economic collapse. Businesses dependent on informal money flows would close, entire zones would lose their order, unemployment would surge, and violence would fragment without central control. In other words, this gang became part of the system. You are 35 years old, but you look 50. 4 bullet wounds spread across your body, 2 completed sentences, friends buried or serving life in prison, and a constant paranoia that never leaves you, even when you smile. You don't sleep without a weapon within reach. You change your route every day, even just to buy food. You climbed every level. Did you think the cycle would keep going the same way? That there would always be invisible deals, silent negotiations, uncomfortable balances between gangs and political power? Then a new factor appears. Nayib Bukele comes to power in El Salvador with a different message. No negotiating, no pacting, no managing the violence, crushing it. He declares a state of emergency and launches what he called the Territorial Control Plan. A strategy combining massive militarization, permanent occupation of neighborhoods, and large-scale preventive arrests. This is no longer about watching leaders. It's about emptying the streets. The raids begin. Soldiers patrolling entire neighborhoods, constant checkpoints. Thousands of arrests in a matter of weeks. Having tattoos associated with gangs, living in certain areas, or appearing on an old list is enough to end up in handcuffs. Your rank doesn't matter. The message is clear. There is no negotiation here. And then comes the symbol of the new era, the SECOT, the Terrorism Confinement Center, a mega prison designed for tens of thousands of inmates. Mass cells, lights on permanently, no visits, no privileges, no phones, no perks. Inside there are no ranflas, paleros, or shooters. Everyone is the same. The government keeps taking territory, and you know there are only 2 options: end up in the SECOT or flee the country. But with a face as recognizable as yours, the second option sounds like a fantasy. Within weeks, they find your hideout in the forest. You don't fight, you don't resist. You always knew this moment would come. In the SECOT, MS-13 and Barrio 18 members coexist under permanent surveillance. There are no modules controlled by the gang, no internal economy managed by leaders, only lines, discipline imposed from above, and isolation. And you, who rose from paro to the top of the hierarchy, understand something unsettling. The board changed without asking permission. The power you accumulated over years can disappear in a single early morning raid, a single list. The highest rank was always temporary. For the first time in decades, the criminal system that terrorized the world is defeated decisively. And meanwhile, on some corner, a 13-year-old